Have you ever imagined a situation in which the courage of the one being, you can change all of that? In a scene that, even in the midst of the chaos, it reveals the power of unconditional love and loyalty? Many times, we think that your bravery is to be left to the humans, the ones who have the ability to make tough decisions and act on risk in and of themselves. But what about when that role is played by a dog, an animal that, without words, it is able to convey a message of hope and self-sacrifice? Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out right now might surprise you in a way you might never have thought possible. This is a busy street, a routine of a day, until all of a sudden, everything changed completely. The exchange of gunfire, the screams, desperate people seeking refuge in an atmosphere of panic that spreads out in a second. In this scenario, the danger, and while many try to hide it, there's a hero in the silent who decides to take action, putting himself in the line of fire to protect someone else who can do nothing for herself at the moment. Have you ever gone through something that has tested their courage in a way that is unexpected? You may never have to face a situation as extreme, but it is the story of what is to come. It shows that sometimes the greatest bravery coming to those who least expect it. And what's amazing is that the hero is not a person but a dog, that is in an attitude of EP full of love. He decides to put his life on the line for a child's well-defended. What are you going to see below is a story of real, exciting, and reveals to him that, even in times of the greatest danger, in the true spirit of solidarity and courage manifests itself in surprising ways. So keep your eyes open, because this story is going to engage you, touching your heart, and will make you think about what it really means to be loyal, brave, and willing to all of those who love him. This is a reminder to power, which very often, the real heroes are among us in the guise of four-legged friends are ready to lay down their lives for the sake of those who trust in them. And from there, the story becomes even more powerful and full of the emotion that you are going to be stored in the memory. If you feel that this story has touched a special place inside of you, and I'd love for you to leave here in the comments which one you had touched him, or what was the lesson that was stored in his heart until now. Your feedback is very important, because it is the one who helps this channel to grow and to get closer and closer to the people, like yourself, who believe that the stories have a power. In addition, if the contents of it made sense to you, leave a like. It is a way to show that you like this kind of story, and you want him/her to continue sharing touching lives in a positive way. And of course, if you want to keep up with every innovation, new developments, and the stories that come from there, if you subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss a thing and be part of a community that believes in the power of empathy, courage, and true love. Here, every comment, every tand, and each application will make a difference, because together, we can spread hope and inspiration. So here is your invitation to participate, to share their experience, and continue to be with us on this journey, because the best is yet to come. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens not only with the external actions or decisions that fleeting, but a change of mindset that permeates every aspect of who we are and what we believe in. It's like finding a hidden layer within each of us is a truth to hide, which often resisted the urge to look out of fear or for the sake of convenience. When we begin to understand that our beliefs shape our actions, we see that the impact that we can make it a lot longer than we might have previously thought. This is not just about wanting to make a change, but to understand why we are stuck in patterns that seem to be unbreakable. It is the ideal starting point for a journey of self-discovery, where every decision is a chance to reflect on the things that really matter and what is in the back of our deepest emotions. When you immerse yourself in the universe of the countryside, many are confronted with a truth that's uncomfortable to you, that many of the limitations we face are, in fact, the buildings of mind. In these constructions, many of the times, and were created by past experiences, or to external influences, which over time have become the absolute truth. You recognize that it's liberating because it allows us to question everything we've been taught, and thus, to begin to rewrite the history. In this rewrite, it passes through a change in perspective, and a willingness to embrace the discomfort of growth. After all, nothing worthwhile comes without effort, and without a doubt, without a little bit of fear. But it really does make a difference. It's made a conscious decision not to let the power of these obstacles in mind, to turn every question into an opportunity to learn and progress. In the process, it's common to realize that our daily lives, it often functions as a kind of a mirror of what we believe to be possible. If you are stuck in a mindset of scarcity, for example, is that our thoughts tend to focus on what's missing, what goes wrong, and unable to move forward. But when we turn to the possibility of a change in mindset, we began to see beyond what the eyes can pick up. We understand the opportunities that are hidden in the everyday. It's the small actions that, when added together, can lead to a radical transformation. This shift in perception, it is like opening a door to a new world, where the impact of our decision-making is enhanced by a new way of thinking about and acting on it. And at this point, it is important to realize that a journey is not linear. There are many ups and downs, moments of doubt, and of the clarity of the times in which it seems that everything is going to fall apart, and the other in the hope of being renewed in a manner almost instantly. These ups and downs are all part of the process of the construction of a new mindset, as it is in the face of adversity that we find the greatest lessons. Each and every challenge becomes an opportunity to deepen our belief that we can be better. That's the impact that we wish to generate again in the US. This understanding is essential in order for the transformation to be sustainable, because it does not only depend on external circumstances, but above all, the inner strength that we have cultivated over the long term. And so, as we go on this journey of self-discovery, it is clear that the revelations of the deepest of many times to come from within. They show us that, in order to achieve what we want, we first need to understand who we are and what we truly believe to be right. This is the real key to unlocking the potential that is hidden under layers of fear, doubt, and autosabotage. When we are able to see beyond the surface, we see that the truth is hidden. It all becomes clearer, lighter, and more closely aligned with what really matters to you. It is at this point that we set out to build a new reality, one that reflects not only our dreams, but also to the core of who we care. And so, as they each discover it drives our development, it is the feeling that there is always something more to be explored, with a new layer of understanding of what awaits you for the courage of the brave. Every step on this path of transformation, and reveals that the impact of our actions will depend, in large part, on our willingness to challenge what you are comfortable with, and to question our own beliefs and to make room for the new one. Because at the end of the day, this is a journey of change. It is a combination of choices and of the spirit, which is being renewed every day. And in doing so, we create a reality of the impact that we want to stop the world no longer something far away, and it becomes a natural extension of who we've decided to make it. He writes in, I'm on this journey too. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because in fact, all of our transformation started long before any further action is visible. It is rooted in a change in its internal structure, is a kind of a silent revolution that is happening in our mind, and the way in which we perceive the world, and in particular, how we see ourselves. It is as if behind every decision we make, there's a narrative that we tell about who we are and what we are capable of doing. And a lot of the time, this narrative is related to the limitations of the beliefs that have been shaped over the years, many of them without notice. When you begin to pay attention to it, we realize that the biggest battle is in your head. In this journey of transformation, it is important to understand that what is really on the limit is not the external circumstances, but our interpretation of them. The impact of a decision, for example, a lot of times that is proportional to the extent to which we believe that it is possible or feasible to do so. If you think that you can't do it, it automatically gets more and more difficult to take action, to commit to it, to follow it through. But if you get to work with such a mentality, which is to challenge those limits, by a long-held beliefs, everything changes. And there you have it. The transformation becomes a natural consequence of a new way of thinking. This is a change of mindset, is about having the courage. You need to face your own insecurities, your fears, that many of the times we would prefer to conceal or minimize it. And in doing so, we begin to realize that a lot of these restrictions are, in truth, the illusion created by your brain. They are the stories we tell, the memories of past failures or expectations that are not concrete. They end up reinforcing a sense of helplessness. But in essence, all of this is just a mental construct. When we were able to make the step up to demystify these experiences, a new perspective emerges that we could rewrite our story, that we are the authors of our own impact. And this is where comes the importance of informed decisions. Don't you just want to change or wait for it to happen? By the way, it is necessary to take action with intent, with purpose. Each and every choice we make, however small it may seem, it has a knock-on effect in the way. And then when you do decide to pursue a course of self-discovery, personal growth, we are nurturing a growth mindset, an attitude of openness to learn from their mistakes, to acknowledge that evolution is a continuous process. Thus, the processing is still a long way off, and turns out to be a natural consequence of those who have decided to make us each and every day. The impact of the change in the internal echo in every aspect of our lives, in a relationship with the people around us, as we face the challenges in his or her ability to lead, to inspire, to make a difference. The more aligned you are with this new mindset, the more authentic and confident you become. This creates an effect of a waterfall, where our actions are no longer to be the impulse of the moment, to become a part of a greater purpose. Go on a journey of self-transformation which once started, tends to go much deeper, revealing the layers that go much deeper than this, of who we are and the potential that we have. And so, as I reflect back on all of this, it is clear that real change is not something that happens at one time or another, nor is it a matter of luck or circumstance. It is, in fact, it's a conscious decision to look within, to challenge our own limits, and to choose every single day to improve. This is the culmination of a journey that changes lives, a journey that begins in the mind, but but of which, in turn, is manifested in the impact that we leave on the world. And that being said, however, is a living proof of the power we have to rewrite our history to build a place where transformation is not just a dream, but it is a true constant. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line because that is the real change doesn't just happen on the surface. She was born there, in the middle, in which many of the times we can't even see it right away. It is in this layer is an invisible one that lies in our way of thinking, which really dictates the pace and direction of our development. And it is this inner transformation, the reconstruction of who you are, and it requires courage. It is huge, with a willingness to confront a hidden truth, and a lot of times, it was uncomfortable. After all, a change on the outside it is the most easy. The difficult is it to change the inside, to change the way we see the world, and the people, and above all, to ourselves. When we first started to explore this journey of self-discovery, we realized that many of our limitations does not come from the external environment, but the entrenched beliefs, patterns of behavior that have been built over a number of years, and that, in some small way, they turn the truth to us. These beliefs act as a sort of filter, a lens that distorts the perception of reality, and often prevents us from seeing the possibilities that are well in front of our eyes. It is as if we are stuck in a vicious cycle, where fear, doubt, and autosabotage to create a narrative that seems set in stone. But when you have decided to look into it more deeply, it all starts to make sense. We have found that the true transformation requires a conscious decision to break away from these patterns. To break down, we hold these truths to the internal, which is, in truth, our lies, repeated until they become a sort of prison. It is invisible, and it is at this point that the mind is in need of a revolution, a change of mindset that will allow us to see beyond what we believe to be possible. This is a change of mindset is the one that drives the action, which provides the impetus for our decision-making are in line with what you truly desire to win. Each step in this direction, it is a revelation, and an opportunity to confront the truth hidden, they often prefer to ignore. And when you do that, you start to realize the impact we leave on the world. It's not a question of luck or external circumstances, but as a direct result of our progress on the inside. When we change on the inside, our actions, our words, and therefore, our actions will reflect that the new version of ourselves. It is as if a new light illuminates the way, and all of a sudden, everything seems to be clearer, more user-friendly. However, this is a journey. It requires self-discipline, because sometimes the obstacles that we are not outside, but within us, in the resistance to change, fear of the unknown. This is where the real battle takes place. Every attempt has been made to move forward is a great opportunity to strengthen the mind, and of the fact that we are able to rewrite our history, which has created a situation where the processing is still a way off at the moment, and it is a part of our everyday life. And in so doing, we can begin to understand that it is the truth that is hidden, that which is often in itself can become our greatest source of power. You just need to have the courage to face what's behind the mask, the reasons and excuses, and embrace the journey of self-transformation, which leads to a more authentic and stronger than ourselves. And at this point, the connection to the impact that we leave on the world, it is even more clear-cut. Why to change our mindset? We change our way of acting, talking, and thinking, and all that echoes in our daily lives, in our relationships, and our impact. The real change, one that is echoed in addition to our own understanding, it is born from the inside to the outside. It is a journey of discovery of constants. Each revelation brings us closer to you a little bit more of who we really are, and how much we're able to positively impact everything around you. When we begin to understand these dynamics, we find that the secret of transformation is in the courage to look within, to challenge our own beliefs, and to build a new narrative, one that is aligned with your purpose in life, what really keeps us going. And that, in itself, is already a huge success on the path to self-discovery and realization. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the journey of transformation that we're talking about is going to a lot more than just identifying one's own limitations and desires to surface. It's an immersion into the essence of a courage to reveal the things that a lot of times we would prefer to conceal even from ourselves. It is at this point that the truth is hidden, that which is hidden beneath layers of fear, limiting beliefs, and constraints of social start to come to the fore, and then when it appears, it often causes an impact that causes us to question everything they ever believed to be real or true in our experience. The biggest revelation is, in fact, that is what prevents us from moving forward. It's not a lack of skill, chance, or even of the power of the will, but rather a series of stories that we tell ourselves. The stories that justify the use of our comfort zone, which feed on the fear of risk or failure. In these stories, which are often deep-rooted in the experiences of the past, which turned out to be absolute truths in our minds to shape our way of thinking and a way of life that in the limit of a silent, almost invisible. So, the real change happens when we are able to identify these patterns, and to understand that they are not the final truth, and above all, that we can rewrite them. In this process, the issues, the transformation of the interior, and often requires that we look at our decisions in the past with a new perspective. After all, as small as it may seem, it builds the path that we are walking in today. It is a decision to accept a situation as it is, or the courage to make radical changes in your route, all contribute to the impact that we have in our own history. And it is precisely at this point that the understanding of the actions that generate a direct consequence on the journey of self-development becomes essential. To understand this, we can begin to understand that real change comes not from the outside factors, but it is a movement built in. It's a change that needs to take place in the mind, in the way we see the world and ourselves. When we align our actions with an all-new narrative, one that is based on the truth of who we really are, and who we want, everything around us begins to change in a way that is more natural, more fluid. At this stage, the analysis becomes our best friend, because it is the one that holds all the tough decisions that challenge the status quo, which leads to the breakdown with the chains. However, this is a path of self-discovery and transformation. It is rarely linear. There are many ups and downs, moments of doubt, fear and insecurity, and it is at this point that the journey is made even more eye-opening, because it is precisely in the face of adversity that we find our true strength is our ability to stand up and continue to evolve. Every obstacle is an opportunity to learn something new, to strengthen our resolve, and to reaffirm our commitment to our own self-nature. And so, the journey transforms into a real work of art, where every decision you make with a conscience, it adds a layer of depth and meaning to your story. On the basis of this understanding, and the importance of having a close look behind the scenes of our mind, it becomes self-evident, because a lot of times, the major blockages that are hidden in between the lines of what we believe to be the truth, these little phrases, inside, to these reasons, which we use to convince ourselves of something that is not possible, it can also be the gateway to a powerful transformation. When you begin to question those inner voices, to challenge the limitations that they impose, we opened up the space for a new life, one that truly reflects our true potential, and we are able to achieve. And thus the impact of this is profound, because of the change in our way of thinking. To rewrite our narrative, we begin to see the world through different eyes, and every decision will have a different weight for each action, an opportunity to reaffirm our brand new identity. The transformation is no longer something foreign, and turns out to be a natural consequence of what happens on the inside. And if you notice that the movement is, of course, that is the true secret lies in the courage to challenge yourself, constantly questioning your own truth, and to remain open to the revelations of the journey and offers, even though it may come with a certain discomfort. And in the process, the connection between our emotions, our decisions, and the impact that they have on the way, if it makes it clearer than ever before. Because when you understand what each step is a decision that shapes who we are, and who we can be, everything you win a dimension that is relevant to them. Any small change in the internal echo in our daily lives, influencing our behavior, our relationships, and most importantly, our sense of wholeness. So we continue to build on that history, and with each time, more in line with the purpose for which it beats inside of us, and that very often he remained hidden under a layer of insecurity, or the fear of being who you really are. And it is precisely here that the day-to-day makes for a truly life-changing, in a move that goes beyond the superficial and dive into the very essence of what it is to be human, with all of its complexities, doubts, and possibilities. And in the meantime, to look for this in authenticity, and if it becomes an adventure, it's worth every step, every discovery, and every congregation, because deep down in the biggest win is the courage to move forward even when the path seems uncertain, with the hope that, in the end, we are closer to ourselves than ever before. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation starts at the very time when we realize that the whole of the journey, internal, it is not a straight line, but in a spider web tangled in the choices, emotions, and discoveries are very quiet in operation. It is at this point that we begin to understand that self-knowledge, it is not a definitive conquest, but it's an ongoing process, as a kind of excavation. Every day, in every decision, in every reflection, it is a little bit more of our lives in hiding. And a lot of the time, this essence is something that you don't even knew that it existed, covered by a layer of insecurity, expectations of others, the fears that have been imposed, and the dreams are forgotten. When we look within, we can see that this quest for authenticity, for a genuine connection with who you really are, and it's a kind of silent revolution. It challenges everything that we have been taught about success, happiness, and meaning, because most of the time, the us is moving forward. It is not a ready-made formula or a recipe foolproof, but it's the courage to confront our own personal truths, the more uncomfortable they may seem. And in this confrontation, it often reveals itself in a series of reports that we have, without realizing it, such as injured, old, or expectations that do not belong to me, but one that helped to shape our identity over the years. A journey to the revelation of many times to come from where we least expect it. They come in the quiet moments when we stop to reflect on our own actions, or simply to listen to our own inner voice. It is here that we find that what keeps us from moving forward is not to be understood in the outside world, but the narrative is built, which will often limit us. It makes us doubt and holds him in a cycle of fear of change, and when you understand it, is a feeling of freedom begins to emerge. It is because we understand that we cannot rewrite history. You can choose from in new ways, with new decisions, new ways of looking at life. At the same time, the search for authenticity, it also shows the influence that comes from a long time, and many of them are so subtle you don't even realize. They are all the little messages on them that they told us in childhood, and the standards that we have learned in the society, and the expectations that have been imposed upon them by those we love or admire. But if we look closely, we can see that a lot of these influences do not represent the truth, but it's a customized version of something that we used to think that we were supposed to be. And that realization is liberating because it gives us the opportunity to break down all of this. You can create a new narrative, one that is more in tune with who you really are. And in the process of the deconstruction of the time, we begin to realize that authenticity is not something you will find out, but it's something that has to be built from the inside to the outside. It is a daily choice, a conscious decision to be honest with our feelings, to accept our own imperfections, and of the value of our borders. Because deep down, this is a journey of self-discovery, is an act of courage. It requires resilience, patience, and above all, a deep desire to improve. And the further we go, the clearer it becomes that the impact of this change is much more than we do ourselves. It influences our relationships, our decisions, our way of looking at the world. And it is this connection with the outside world. They end up reflecting back to our house. When we are aligned with our essence, everything seems to be lighter in weight, more real. People will realize that authenticity, even if you do not manage to explain it, and it creates a sort of invisible impact, the energy that attracts those who are seeking something deeper than that. And so the journey of self-discovery, it becomes a trade-off, in a move to come and go at will, between what is most intimate in us, and what we can offer to the world. And so true. For this reason, when you think about the transformation that the quest for authenticity leads to, realize that it's not just a change in the surface, or with a conquer the moment. This is an internal revolution that is shaping who we are in each and every day, in every decision. And in the process, we have found that the only truth that really matters is that you feel in your chest, the one that flashes when you connect and experience our lives. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to this connection, on a journey of discovery that has no end point, but it extends to every step taken in the direction of what we really are. And as long as this new awareness sets in, it becomes clear that authenticity is not something you achieve, it's something that has to be built, one that reveals itself gradually to the art of accepting who you are. In fact, no masks, no filters. It's a dance-off between the interior and the exterior, one that is only possible when we choose to be true to ourselves. In it, each discovery, each revelation brings us closer to more of our essence is pure and true. The feeding of a transformation, although silent, it has a profound impact and sustainable. And as long as this journey continues, it is the feeling that you are finally setting us free from the shackles that prevent us from being fully who we really are. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation that you are looking for, is not something that happens only at the surface level, the action, or in words. It is rooted in our ability to understand our own hidden truths, for those who often prefer to hide it out of fear, insecurity, or simply not having the courage to face it. This is a journey of self-discovery, takes us to an area where there is doubt, conflicting emotions, and even your limiting beliefs become tools for learning, and it is not insurmountable obstacles. When we first started exploring this area over the years, we've noticed that in every decision that we make, each and every reaction in the face of these challenges, it is a direct reflection of what we carry in-house. It reveals a profound impact on the way we live, relate, and create a new story about ourselves. In fact, that quest for authenticity requires us to look inward with brutal honesty. There is no way to escape from having what you really are, because deep down, that this is the only way to make a true connection with the outside world. In this connection, in turn, feed a string to the internal changes that will reverberate in our minds to shape our actions in a way that is more conscious and in alignment with our deepest values. And it is at this point that we began to realize that the transformation is not something that comes from the outside to the inside, but in reality, she is from the inside to the outside. Every little decision, every step, every moment of introspection becomes a critical piece in the puzzle that is our personal evolution. As we move forward in this journey, we are becoming more and more aware of the impact of the choices we make, not just in our own lives, but also in the way that we affect the world around us. And this awareness brings about a sense of freedom that people don't know about it, because it challenges the idea that the external controller is the one that defines our happiness and fulfillment. In fact, the true control lies in our ability to manage our own emotions, to understand our motivations, the most intimate act with a purpose. It is a movement of transformation, a silent, almost invisible in the eyes of those who don't are aware of it, but it has a long-lasting and far-reaching. However, this journey is not linear. It has ups and downs, the moments of clarity and doubt, joy and fear, and it is in this struggle that reveals our true nature. In each episode of self-awareness, it's a chance to break with old patterns, to break free from the shackles that prevent us from being who we really are. When we are able to do so, a new perspective opens up in front of us, with a better understanding of our potential, and a more in-depth understanding of the impact that we can make to live according to the truth. It is in the constant movement that we find the strength to move forward, even when obstacles seem bigger than you can handle, and at the same time, their journey reveals behind the scenes to surprising, showing that many of our limitations are, in fact, the creations of our own mind, the revelations that challenge us to question everything we've learned so far, to break down the concepts that have been imposed, and the rebuild version of ourselves more in tune, more authentic. Thus, the transformation is no longer something foreign, something that we seek to accomplish, and it happens to be an experience of revelation as built. It is a real revolution from the inside to the outside, and this is where it all starts to make sense, in a way more fully, because we understand that it is the most powerful, is already quietly, constantly, and is invisible to the eyes in a hurry. This understanding leads to a new phase, where the impact of our actions and decision-making becomes more and more aware of it. Whereas the understanding that we are the main characters of our story, it gives us power to face any adversity with a mentality that is more resilient. And at the same time, this perspective connects us to something larger, a truth that hides many of the times we prefer to ignore. It's the true transformation is about having the courage, the patience, and the delivery is sincere in the process of self-discovery. And at a deeper level to this understanding, we begin to realize that the path to authenticity is, in fact, a day of release, to embrace who we are, in fact, with all the ups and downs, vulnerabilities, and strengths. This is the essence of all of the things that we are looking for, a genuine connection with our soul, the one that only comes when we choose to be true to ourselves even in the face of a world that often tries to overwrap in accordance with their own standards. And in this movement, we find that each step taken in the direction of the truth is an act of courage. It echoes in history, turning not only to who we are today, but also the way in which impactamus of the universe around us. That's the beauty of it, is a journey that never ends, because in fact, it only grows stronger with each new enlightenment, to each of the revelation that the us even closer to our essence is pure. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. It is because of this journey, the quest for authenticity, many of the times, reveal a layer that is not thought to exist in all of us. It's as if, when you dive into our own depths, discover a never-failing source of strength, a power that had always been there, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations of external stakeholders. These revelations did not come from one time to another, but if they build with each and every decision, consciously, and with each moment of silence, in which we allow ourselves to listen to our inner voice, the one that often gets drowned out by the noise of the outside world. When we look within, we realize that many of our limitations, and locks that have been set up by the narrative we have been taught, that we have been imposed upon by those who surrounded her, by a society that often values conformity over that of the singularity. But at the same time, we see that the narrative is just a story that you can rewrite. And in this rewrite is about having the courage. Yes, but it is also an in-depth understanding of the transformation begins in the mind, and the mentality that you choose to grow. It is an exercise of choice for the growth of his decision to retire from their limiting beliefs, and embrace the truth that beats in all of us. This inner transformation affects everything around us, because when we change the way we see it, we'll automatically change to the way we position ourselves in front of the world. It is as if a new light illuminates your feet, revealing the possibilities of it before seemed to be far away or impossible. This is the light that is born of self-knowledge. You have the power to transform obstacles into opportunities, the challenges we face on the stairs, on the staircase, in the development of the staff. And in the process, we also recognize that the decisions we make have a huge weight on our way. For each choice, as small as it may seem to you, it's like a seed that is planted in the soil of our history, and the impact of which is only revealed with the passage of time. For this reason, it is crucial that you learn to pay attention to our emotions, to our internal signals, those of the small gut, which is often ignored by the belief that it comes from the inside isn't as important as what comes out of it. These are emotions that, when listened to, provide us with valuable clues as to what we really want or need to change it. And the inclusion of these signs, we can begin to build a connection. The more genuine our lives, strengthen our self-confidence, and arousing the courage that maybe I wasn't asleep. The journey of self-discovery also leads us to confront the truths that are hidden from those who would prefer to conceal or deny it, because they challenge our comfort zones. But when you meet them, you realize that true freedom lies in the acceptance of who we truly are, with all your flaws and qualities. This acceptance is not resignation, but it's an act of self-love that allows us to move more lightly on the planet, and clear. And in doing so, we are to understand the impact of our choices is greater than we can imagine, because they will inspire others to also seek out your own truth, and by creating a chain of processing that radiates from the heart. And so, as long as the connection with the core of who we become stronger, we begin to realize that everything around us becomes the people that you're attracted to, and the opportunities that come to you, and the obstacles that before you seem insurmountable right now, become part of a learning path. Every step you take, every decision, every moment's reflection, it's a part of this grand building that is on the journey. And even in the face of these questions and challenges, we are sure to recognize that drives us, that we are exactly where we need to be at the right time, experiencing it in-game, which will take you to the next level of understanding and progress. Now, I want you to go deep into this subject. It is because of this deep connection with our inner selves shows that a true transformation doesn't just happen on the outside but above all, in-house. It is a journey of reconstruction, and the new, where every experience, no matter how hard it may seem to you, you have a purpose for us, to mold and make us stronger. And then, when we look at our past, we realize that each and every moment of pain, doubt, or hesitation, it was a very important part for us to reach this far, more aware, more powerful, and more aligned with who you really are. Well aware of that, it's the fuel that makes us move forward, even when the way seems unclear or unknown. When you think about all of this, we've noticed that this is a journey of self-discovery is not a destination, but a continuous, constant evolution that requires patience, resilience, and above all, a genuine desire to connect with the truth that touches the core of our being. And this is true. It is often the key that opens the door to a more fulfilling, more meaningful, and where our actions reflect who we really are, and not what others expect of us. To mirror this to the authenticity in the day-to-day is the greatest gift we can give ourselves, because by doing so we inspire others to also find their own light and follow the path of courage and transformation. I know that all of this may seem challenging, but it is also an opportunity for the discovery of how to reprogram our minds to it, and every decision is driven by his true connection with our inner selves. And in the process, we find that the impact of a change in the interior is so much greater than we can imagine, because it reflects not just our lives but also the lives of those around us, creating a real chain of the transformation, which once activated, will never break down. So we went ahead with making sure that every step we take in the direction of the truth is a seed of hope, courage, and self-love that will blossom in surprising ways over the course of our journey. Because of this, I want you to think about your own story, your choices, and moments that will challenge who you really are. And then, when you do this, you notice that the greatest change happens when you decide to really take control of our narrative, authenticity, and courage, and an open heart for what is to come. After all, our true journey is only beginning, and it reserves the revelations that may change everything you know about yourself and the impact you want to leave out in the world. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the true essence of transformation, is not only in the external actions or decisions that point that we take it, but in the courage to confront what they too often prefer to ignore, our own limitations, our fears, the more our internal beliefs that we have without even realizing it. This one day demands with a sincerity, a brutal, with those who are, in fact, a willingness to look in the mirror and acknowledge our own failures, our own insecurities, but also on our potential hidden beneath layers of autosabotage. It is at this point that the narrative that we tell ourselves is changing, and with it, everything around us becomes. Transform your mindset how to repurposing an old one, which is often in the lock, which prevents us from moving forward with authenticity, and is lightweight, and that reprogramming does not happen overnight. It's a constant practice of self-knowledge and the question of what is really important, to make room for the new belief, and mostly, to have to accept that making mistakes is a part of the process. It's as if we're unlocking a door that takes us to a world where our decisions will reflect what you desire for the truth, not what others expect you to do, not what society dictates as the default, but the only thing that beats strong within each and every one of us. To explore the behind the scenes of this journey, we realize that the biggest revelation is the discovery that our freedom lies in the ability to pick and choose what we carry and what we have left to go. Too often, we carry too much weight, the stories that have been told, and expectations that were never our own, and those bails to create a layer of self-deception, which takes us away from the essence. When you learn to loosen up, to put our trust in the process, we open up space for a transform, so genuine, that it comes from the inside out, which will impact all areas of our lives, from our personal relationships to our professional decisions. It is a movement of courage. Yes, because you need to leave behind what no longer serves you, to give up control and trust that the universe, if it fits in with an incredible accuracy, they learn about the truth hidden from our experiences begin to happen when you you least expect it, often in the moments of quiet, in the simplicity of a reflection, or in connection with the service of something larger than ourselves. These findings act as a catalyst for a change. It is irreversible, is a kind of a wake-up call that it gives us a new perspective about the impact we can make. This is not only to achieve the objectives and to win something from outside, but to understand where the true transformation occurs when we align our deepest values with our actions every day, thus creating a consistency that reverberates through the entire journey. And it is precisely at this point in the story that we tell to the world. It becomes an extension of the narrative that built in, and quietly, we are talking about ourselves. Every decision, every step of authenticity, it strengthens that connection is built, which in turn influences all around us. The realization that we are the authors of our own story, it's liberating, because it gives us the ability to open and adjust the script as many times as necessary, until the truth will be reflected in the way in which we live, the relationships they have built, and the mark we leave on the path we choose to take. This awareness that is, without a doubt, the greatest impact is that of a journey of true transformation, one that goes beyond the surface and reaches to the roots of our being. In the meantime, behind the scenes of this transformation will remain invisible to the majority, but they are the ones that hold all of that changes. There are the moments of doubt, and the night's reflection. It's the small wins every day and the learning experiences that seem simple, but they can be added together to create a force that was irresistible. And at the same time, those scenes make it clear that the path is not linear, nor is it perfect. It is made up of the ups and downs of unexpected discoveries, and of the choices that you will have enough for our comfort. And it is precisely this conflict that we find the greatest opportunity for growth, for each and every obstacle is an opportunity to reaffirm our resolve to develop and to be faithful to the truth. As the journey progresses, we see that the transformation is not something that happens to us to accomplish a goal laid on, but a steady stream of who we are and the impact you want to leave. And in the process, and the revelations of the deepest of many times to come from within, and a connection is genuine for the purpose of more times. It is as if with each step we take him to a new level of understanding, of acceptance, of love of its own. And at the same time, this new understanding, we show that the impact we can have on the world, and it is proportional to the courage to show our true self without the mask, just authentic. And with that, our internal narrative goes on to reflect this new reality, and that everything around you starts to grow in a natural way. It was almost inevitable. And then in the midst of his transformation, we realize that the real power is in our choice to move on, even when the way seems unclear or challenging. Because after all, a journey of self-transformation is a journey of discoveries, and the constant revelations that connects us with our essence is pure, and the only people who truly accept such a process is able to live with integrity and purpose. And so we'll just keep writing each chapter, along with a hope, courage, and a desire to make a difference, and knowing that the greatest change happens in those moments of quiet, where the truth is revealed and addressed. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. If you've come this far, it's because they really believe that this process of self-discovery, it's worth it, right? I'm too happy to have you around that time. If this content made sense to you, how about leaving a like?" So we strengthen this connection that we created in the course of the video, showing that in this chat, it is also important to you. And of course, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Here we seek to share the insights that make a difference in the lives of anyone who wants to grow and get to know you better, and all in a very light, natural, there's no hurry. If you have identified anything in that which has been spoken of, leave a comment saying, "I'm on this journey too." Thus, we are able to create an exchange is still closer to the truth, and you will help me to understand what you are interested in to bring up the content of each time more and more in line with what you are looking for. Oh, and I don't get lost. There's a video right here on the side, which complements this subject. You can click and keeps me there as well. I'm pretty sure that's going to help you to go even deeper on this journey of self-discovery. Thank you for staying with me until the very end, for taking some time to reflect and grow. In the end, each step in this direction, it is an accomplishment, and you deserve to be good to yourself. Until the next video, and remember, all change begins with a single step.